UFC 304 Edwards versus Muhammad just ended like 5 to 10 minutes ago. We have a new champion in the welterweight division. Utter domination in 3 of those 5 rounds. He had moments in the 5th round right at the end where Leon was about to make a comeback. Obviously, the control with Leon having the back and looking for the rear naked. 48-47 in my opinion for Belal Muhammad, but a great victory. The crowd did not like it, but a great victory nonetheless. Aspinall with the knockout in round 1. Hadley with the submission in round 1. Rodriguez decision. Arnold Allen decision. Wood decision. There was a lot of decisions in a row in this little stretch. All the way down to, of course, the early finishes. Parkin by knockout. Patterson submission. And Bukauskas with the late finish as well. It was a great card in my opinion. These 3 fights right here were really fun. Oban versus Preston I thought was fun as well. Bruno Brazil, Molly McCann was very fun. Pineda Wood, very fun. Alan Giga, very fun. A lot of you guys didn't like this one. I like this one a lot. Patty versus Bobby Green was fun for as long as it lasted. Same to be said for Tom and Curtis. Leon and Belal, a little bit boring at times, but that was much to be expected. But you know what's about to happen. Fights to make next for every winner at UFC 304. The first one being Shauna Bannon in the UFC's women's strawweight division. Down here, she beat Elise Ardeline by a split decision. I didn't think it should have been. I thought it was a clear 29-28 for her to win that fight. They thought it was split for whatever reason. But Julie Polastri is 0-1 in the UFC, but against a really good girl in Josephine Knudsen. She's got good wrestling, good grappling, good striking. She's kind of average everywhere, kind of like Shauna Bannon. Shauna's a little bit better on the feet, has some good submission attempts. This would be a good one. 1-1 in the UFC versus 0-1. Makes sense. They're right around the same rankings. Put it on the prelims of literally any UFC fight night. Now, these aren't going to be in order on the prelims because I messed it up a little bit. So the next one is going to be Jake Hadley, who was, I believe, the 6th or 7th fight. He was one of the last fights on the prelim right here. He went out there, looked really good against Kalan Loughran. It's either that or Kalan Loughran just looked really bad against Jake Hadley. Kalan had no head movement really, in my opinion. Was kind of just coming forward and eating punches and just wasn't able to get the takedowns, but that's also due to Jake Hadley doing very well in defending. He did miss weight though, so that's not good. We're not going to give him a huge step up because he doesn't deserve it. He missed weight. So we're going to go back to flyweight and we're going to do a banger. CJ Vergara is 3-3 in the UFC. Jake Hadley is now 3-3 in the UFC. This is a banger to make in the flyweight division. Makes sense where they are ranking wise. They're both pretty exciting. CJ is one of the most exciting guys at flyweight right now. I would love this fight as one of the final fights on the prelims of a pay-per-view of a UFC fight night. It doesn't matter. This is a fun one to make at 125 pounds. Sam Patterson looked very
good. I mean, the striking was a little bit even. He landed some good shots on the feet. Kiefer initiated the clinch. Aspinall got him, or not Aspinall, Patterson got him down, got into that side control position a little bit, and then got that arm triangle, tapped him out. It looked like he wasn't going to get it at times because he didn't have the right angle on it, but he got the right squeeze eventually and got the submission. That's 2 submissions in a row. He's undefeated in the UFC's welterweight division, but not against really good guys. Johan Linus not in the UFC. Kiefer Crosby is 0-2 in the UFC, so I'd like to give him a little bit of a step up, and a guy that is most definitely a step up in this UFC welterweight division is 100%, without a doubt, a guy like Ange Loosa. He's ranked 52nd. I believe he is even in the UFC, 2 wins, 2 losses, so it makes around sense when you're looking at their rankings and how many wins and losses they have. They're in similar positions in their UFC careers, whereas Ange is coming off a loss and Patterson's coming off a win. So let's see if Sam Patterson deserves to be in that upper echelon of the welterweight division. Ange Loosa is a great test for a lot of these prospects because he is so hard to finish. Jack Della Maddalena couldn't finish him. Gabriel Bonfim couldn't. It's a great test for Sam Patterson. Next one, we got another great test for an up-and-comer. Oban Elliott looked amazing. Outstruck Preston Parsons on the feet, defended his takedowns, looked really, really good. Even reversed Preston at times and out-grappled Preston in this fight. His takedown defense looked absolutely amazing. I believe a good striking battle could be made for UFC 309 later this year. Put it on the prelims and give Oban Elliott a veteran. He's been fighting Preston Parsons, who's very, very good, but is sort of a newer guy into the UFC, and then he fought a guy that's no longer in the UFC, so let's give him a little bit of a veteran, a little bit of a step up. That performance was so good. If it was like a 29-28 split decision, really close fight, he barely won, I wouldn't be giving him this step up, but he did look so impressive doing so against a really good guy in Preston Parsons. I like the test between him and Alex Morono next. It doesn't have to be at UFC 309, but put it on the prelims of any fight night or even a pay-per-view. Then we got Bruna Brazil, had the upset. I actually bet, I think I had $50 on Bruna Brazil at like plus 300 to go out there and get the win on Molly McCann, and she did so. She looked amazing in round number 1 of the body shots, outstruck her in round 2 and round 3, out-grappled her in those rounds as well, got her back, was searching for submissions, ground and pounding. She just kind of dominated Molly McCann in that fight. But in her UFC career, she is 2-2, so it's not like we're going to be giving her a top 15 girl at this point in her MMA career. We're going to give her a girl that has a losing record in the UFC, but is still on the upper echelon of the women's strawweight division in Polyana Viana. She's coming off 2 losses by finish, but I do believe this fight could be very, very exciting. Polyana's a finisher, or she gets finished. Bruna Brazil also has a lot of finishes on her record, but this could be one where it is just all-out action at 115 pounds. I like it. I know they don't really like to do Brazil versus Brazil, but I like it. Let's do it for the prelims later this year. Then we got Mick Parkin, another very impressive performance. 1 round is all it took. 3 minutes, 23 seconds to catch Lucas, wobble him, land a few other shots, and a lot of ground and pound. 10-0, 4-0 in the UFC, and let's give him a shot in that top 15. Rodrigo Nascimento needs a fight. He is ranked 15th. He's coming off a loss. He's got to fight someone unranked at this point, and it's got to be Mick Parkin. Give Mick his shot inside of that top 15. We don't want to bump him up to Derek Lewis or someone crazy like that. I think Rodrigo Nascimento is a great test to see if he is worthy of that top 15. Put it on the fight night main card of your choosing. It does not matter where you put this one. Third to last fight of a UFC fight night, and Mick could go out there and knock out Rodrigo Nascimento. He's got great takedown defense, and that's a great test in the heavyweight division for Mick. Another great test here, Ryan Spann right outside of that top 15. Modestas Bukauskas is 3-1 in the UFC on this current stint. He went out there, I believe on short notice against Tyson Pedro at UFC 284 in Australia. Was able to get the upset there. Beat Zach Paunga. Only lost to Vitor Petrino. That's why I'm not giving him a top 15 fight after this win against Marcin Prachnio. So I'm going to give him a guy right outside the top 15, a finisher, a killer be killed type of guy in Ryan Spann. I think one of them is getting knocked out in this type of a fight. One of them is getting submitted in this type of a fight, and I don't know who it's going to be. That's why I like this matchup. Again, just like the Mick Parkin one, put this as the third to last fight of a UFC fight night of your choosing. It could be in the Apex. I don't care. I don't like the Apex. I would honestly like this fight in front of a crowd, but I just think it's a very, very exciting fight to make for literally any date. Marcin lost. Let's do Modestas Bukauskas, Ryan Spann next at 205 pounds. Then we got Nathaniel Wood. Absolutely impressive win. He went out there, looked just absolutely amazing. I'm at a loss for words. You can see me stuttering here a little bit. Nathaniel Wood kind of dominated round 1 and round 2, both on the feet and on the ground. Very good ground and pound, very good submission defense, and was able to chop up the legs of Daniel Pineda. Land some good shots, wobble Daniel, drop Daniel many times throughout this fight. And he let Daniel come back a little bit in round number 3, but not enough for where he would lose the fight. So another great win for Nathaniel Wood in the UFC. featherweight division, he is currently, 4-1, only losing a close one to Muhammad Naimov. He's beaten Charles Jourdain, very good win, Andre Fili, and Daniel Pineda. And I was thinking, in the featherweight division, he doesn't deserve a top 15. Obviously, he was coming off a loss. He's only on 1 win in a row. We're not giving him a top 15. I don't like doing a Sodiq versus Nathaniel Wood fight. I don't like the Caceres Nathaniel Wood fight. Damon has a fight. I like other matchups for Nate Landwehr. He's already fought Andre Fili. I don't like doing prospect with David Onama and Nathaniel Wood. Billy's coming off a loss. He shouldn't get that step up. Julian Erosa made perfect sense to me. 2 wins in a row, 2 finishes in a row. He's a great test, and a guy that if you're able to beat him, you're pretty much proven you have potential to be top 15 level. It's another great test to be had at 145 pounds. You put this on the main card of any UFC fight night and expect fireworks, because Julian has been knocked out before. Nathaniel's got some good power in his hands, and they both have great grappling as well. It's a fun matchup at 145 pounds. The next one is going to make you guys a little bit mad, and it's Mokaev versus Alessandro Pantoja, and this is only if they're not going to do Kaya Sakura versus Alessandro Pantoja. Now, there's obviously rumors around coming saying, oh, Pantoja and Kaya Sakura are going to be fighting for the UFC flyweight belt. We don't know if any of those are true or anything like that. All we do know is, looking at the UFC rankings, who has Pantoja beaten? Let's look at it. Royval, Pantoja's beaten him twice. Brandon Moreno, he's beaten him 3 freaking times. Amir Albazi coming back from injury and already has a fight in the works, so we're not doing Amir Albazi versus Alessandro Pantoja. Kai is coming off a loss, and he's fighting Urseg. Tatsuro Taira, his only win inside of the top 15, literally is Alex Perez, and it was a weird one. That's the only win he has in the top 15, was an injury win. We're not giving him a title fight off an injury. He is only, 5-0 in the UFC, I think? Muhammad Mokaev is 7-0 in the UFC. He is now beaten number 8. He has beaten number 11. And he has beaten Cody Durden, who's like number 16. He's beaten Charles Johnson, who's like number 17 right there. He's 4 finishes in the UFC out of 7 wins in the UFC. I know what you're going to say. Oh, they're all boring wins. They're horrible. I don't like watching Mokaev fight. Well, then feed him to Pantoja. If you don't like Mokaev, well, then you probably think Pantoja is going to go out there and beat him. So let's do that. Let's keep on having Pantoja defend different opponents and build Pantoja's legacy. He's already beaten number 1, number 2, number 4, number 7, number 8, and number 9. Only options he hasn't beaten yet are Mokaev, Albazi, and Tatsuro. Again, Amir already has a fight, and I don't think Tatsuro would deserve it over Mokaev after an injury win and only 1 win inside of the top 15. Mokaev, I know you're going to say he's boring, but he deserves the shot at this point at 125 pounds. Mokaev versus Pantoja, let's put it as the co-main events right before John Jones and Stipe Miocic. Next one, we do have Arnold Allen. Another impressive performance. Went out there, looked very, very good against Giga Chikadze. Lost round 1, in my opinion. I believe he got hit with some big shots right at the end of the round. But round 2 and round 3, his boxing looked amazing. His pressure and his punches and his power looked absolutely amazing. He outstruck Giga in round 2 and round number 3. And I'm like, I don't want to give Arnold Allen another grappler. He beat Giga Chikadze. He has a win over Calvin Kattar. He has a win over Josh Emmett. He's already beaten a lot of the guys before him. Sterling has a fight. We're not doing Arnold Allen versus anybody below him in the rankings, so I looked above. Evloev has a fight. Ortega has a fight. Holloway's going to have a fight. Volkanovski is not fighting Arnold Allen. And then Ilia Topuria is obviously not going to fight Arnold Allen. That's not going to happen. There's one option in there that made perfect sense. Yair, Arnold Allen, main event. This fight would be absolute freaking fireworks at 145 pounds. I love it. I straight up love this fight to be made. This is a 5-round battle between Arnold Allen and Yair. All of it's going to be striking. When have you seen Yair go for a takedown? When are you seeing Arnold Allen going for a takedown? He's had takedowns before. He didn't attempt a single one against Giga Chikadze. This is going to be so much fun. Next fight, Gregory Rodriguez. We're getting him in that top 15. It's got to happen. Chris Curtis, you could do that fight. Arnold or Anthony Hernandez, Michel Pereira, they're already fighting. Caio shouldn't fight outside the rankings. They're not going to do Chimaev. So in my opinion, it was up to Roman Dolidze versus Gregory Rodriguez or Chris Curtis versus Gregory Rodriguez. And personally, I don't think Roman Dolidze deserves to be in the top 15. I know he has a win over Jack Hermanson, which has aged very well. Jack is a very, very good win. If they rematched again today, I think Jack beats him. If anybody else fought Roman Dolidze in that top 15 today, I think they lose, or I think they beat Roman Dolidze. I think Roman is the worst fighter, in my opinion, inside of that top 15 in a very, very winnable fight for Gregory to keep that on the feet and make it a striking matchup. 3-round banger at 185 pounds. Get Gregory in there, and let's start a Gregory Rodriguez title run immediately. Next fight, Paddy Pimblett, Renato Moicano. I don't care what happens with Renato and Benoit Saint-Denis. Benoit can go out there and submit Renato in like 20 seconds, and I don't care. I'm doing this fight next. That's what I want. That's what I need. Inject it into my veins. Renato's ranked number 10 in the UFC lightweight division. Let's say Benoit wins. Obviously, if Renato wins that fight against Benoit Saint-Denis, he'd probably still want the Paddy Pimblett fight for the money, because it would just be a big, big deal for Renato Moicano's career. So win or lose, Renato's probably going to want this fight. But let's say he loses. By chance. Benoit wins. Benoit takes his spot at number 10. Renato moves below Dan Hooker and goes right above Jalen Turner again. He'll be number 12. Paddy will be number 15. Makes perfect sense. 15 versus 12. And you can do a UFC fight night in the UK. It's a regular fight night. You don't have to make it super, super stacked. But again, just like this pay-per-view, put a lot of the up-and-comers, a lot of the Cage Warriors champions on the card as well. You got a very good fight night. Main event. Two really big names, two really big stars, Paddy and Renato Moicano. Let's do it. Please, UFC, main event this fight. Main event it. Next one, I know. It's not what I want. It's not what I want. What I want is Aspinall versus Jones. And I'm sure that's what you want as well. Again, I want that as much as the next guy. It's not going to happen. Jones and Stipe are going to fight. I don't like it. Stipe should go retire, not fight John Jones. He doesn't deserve a title fight after getting knocked out by Francis Ngannou and not fighting for like 4 years. Stipe doesn't deserve this fight. Give Aspinall the title fight. I know they're not going to do that, so of course, Aspinall versus the winner, which is probably going to be Jones, but even if it is Stipe, just do it. Just do it. Give Aspinall his legacy fight, because as soon as they're gone, he's just going to be clearing out the UFC heavyweight division, and he'll have no wins over the previous generation. Please, UFC, let him fight the winner. I know it's probably not up to the UFC because Jones or Stipe is going to make the decision to retire or to not. Please, Jones. Please, Stipe. If you win, don't retire. Fight Aspinall. Main event, UFC 315. I don't care. Last but not least, Belal Muhammad taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. He said it a few days before the fight card got announced, or not got announced, before UFC 304. He said he would be willing to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov as his first UFC title defense in Abu Dhabi, and I don't think it'll be the main event. I don't think Shavkat is that kind of guy to main event a card just yet. Belal doesn't have that big of a name either, and I think the plan is probably, Islam versus Arman Tsarukyan, 2 main events, UFC Abu Dhabi, and I think perfect scenario for the UFC here to do Belal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov as the co-main events of UFC 308 behind Islam and Arman Tsarukyan. You already got Cyril Gane and Alexander Volkov in the works for that card as well. That is a solid 3 fights for that main card. A few others will obviously be added. A lot of bangers on those prelims. You already know Abu Dhabi's paying the UFC the big bucks to bring some good fights. This makes perfect sense. That's what I got for you. Fights to make next after UFC 304. Again, Belal's performance, amazing. Put on the pressure. didn't eat like humongous strikes from Leon coming in and just kept wilting Leon round by round by round. I know Leon had his moments getting the back and looking for submissions. In round 5, getting on top, controlling, ground and pounding, and cutting up Belal on top as well. I mean, incredible that Leon was able to do that late in the fight, but Belal dominated for the most part. I mean, it was a good card. All the finishes were very exciting. A few of the decisions were exciting as well. Like I said, I think it was a solid 8 out of 10 UFC pay-per-view. Thank you guys for watching. Those are my fights to make next, and we'll see you in the next video.